Hello, this is Mark Tucker, and welcome to Microsoft Foundry Registered Agents, Expectations versus Reality. So a few weeks ago in Microsoft Ignite event, they talked about this new Microsoft Foundry portal, and you can get there by going to aiazure.com and toggling the new Foundry option. There are a number of different tabs here. One of them is Operate, and there's this button for Register Agent. So I was trying to figure out, well, what is register an agent, and what kind of agents can you register, and what does that mean? I had some guesses, educated guesses, I guess, of as far as what I thought that would do. And then over time, as I started to experiment with it, then I found that some of the things were right, some of the things weren't. And one of the first things I discovered is that there are no videos that talk about registering an agent. And so that's what I wanted to figure out. So that's what we're working on today. We're going to start with a very simple example. There is a code repo here, and I'll share a link in the description. But this is an agent that is a mock agent. It's not really a real agent. It's just following the same basic structure of what an agent built with the OpenAI Responses API would look like. So it has a request, like if we were to take a look at this local HTTP file, this is just a curl file saying that if we were to hit this locally running post endpoint at V1 responses, passing in some information like what model it was and what the input was, that is the input, the request format that it follows, and then it responds back with the format that you would get if you were actually talking to an agent that was using the Responses API. So let's just dive just quickly into the code. It's I didn't really want to have to worry about a model or something, but this and so I just created something simple, and I just thought a mock that just echoes back what you type in, and it's just faking that it's an agent and it can be hosted someplace over HTTP. So it's based on FastAPI, Python code here. If we go all the way down to the bottom, it starts up just a server here. It exposes one post endpoint for V1 responses. All it does here is it takes the request that's coming in, and we already saw what that format was by looking at that curl statement that was in this file here. And what it's going to do is it's going to extract out of that request JSON what that input text is, and then it's going to pass it to a function that builds the response and then return the response. You can take a look at it, but it's really basically just hard coding what the structure or the response would be, and returns that back out. So that's really all that this agent does, and I just wanted something that I could host someplace and then ultimately register that agent here. So that's what I'm trying to accomplish. So let's take a look at the only documentation that I could find about registered agents, and it's this link here: register a managed custom agent. They call it a custom agent. I call it a registered agent just because it's the only ones that you can register via here in the portal. And you can also call it an external agent because it's an agent that's hosted someplace outside of Foundry. Now that could be in a container inside of Azure. It could be something that's hosted in Google Cloud, AWS, wherever you're hosting this agent. The key point is that your agent needs to be hosted someplace and available via HTTP and have an endpoint. So that's really all that's required to register an agent. Now, why would we want to register an agent? Well, there's lots of niceties that you get by registering agents or having agents inside of this portal. If I come over here to the build tab, for example, I have this first agent v2 V2 is this is a Foundry agent service, but it's the version 2. It's the new Foundry portal versus the old Foundry portal V1. But I can create an agent here, and it shows up over here under operate, and I get to, it shows up under assets. So here's that same agent. It's Foundry as opposed to these ones are custom. So it just shows up in here. Something else that's just a quick tangent. When you're over here looking at build, there's an ability to create workflows. And so creating a workflow gives a visual way of, designing specific path or conversation flow, and you can specify an agent in here. And then you can also preview and test that. But when you come over here to operate and the assets tab, then this workflow also shows up as an agent. So what Microsoft's trying to do is get all your agents in one place, whether it's an agent that was declared, a declarative agent created here in Foundry, a workflow created in Foundry, a code-based, a framework-based agent using something like Microsoft Agent Framework or LangGraph can also be deployed and hosted in Foundry, and that could show up here, as well as these custom agents. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. If we scroll down a little bit more, there's it's talking about this Microsoft Foundry control plane, which gives you access to monitoring and telemetry and other things. Ability to turn your agents on and off. But in the end, this architecture diagram is going to kind of show the main part of it. Here's your custom agent hosted at some endpoint. And what's happening is that when you register this agent inside of Foundry, it's going to create an API wrapper or a proxy to that agent. And so you're going to need Azure API Management enabled for Foundry, because anything that's using this agent is no longer going to use this endpoint that it was registered on. It's going to create its own Foundry-based APM endpoint. And by doing that, this proxy is going to give an opportunity to intercept, and you can block or unblock this agent. You can have tracing and Azure Application Insights. So inside of Foundry, you're going to need Azure API Management. You're going to need a resource and a project, and you're going to need Application Insights. So all that stuff. So that's really all we're doing is when we register it, it's going to create a proxy, and then it's going to register it in this registry in Foundry. Let's see, might be some other things in here. The protocol that we're using is HTTP. It also supports A to A. That's not what we're going to talk about today, but it does give us the ability to connect via open telemetry. And this goes through and talks about basically configuring it. But at first, I was thinking that these agents needed to be of a certain type. Like, does the agent need to follow the, like I said, the OpenAI responses API, or the the older chat completions API, or something else? It really doesn't. It's just going to connect to HTTP in this case, because that's how we're going to tell it to do it. And it's just forwarding calls through this proxy layer. So it gives it an ability to kind of a middleman be able to do some things in the middle that you couldn't. You may not have access to this this agent, the code, or however it's hosted. Like I say, it could be in a completely different cloud environment, but you can register it in Foundry. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the code here. So here is that same project downloaded. So this agent's Python file is our mock agent. I've already run pip install and Python agent, so I'm running this, and that's what this terminal is. So it's already running local, and I've got a plugin extension here in Visual Studio called, what is it? I think it's called, let's find it, REST client. So with this REST client, if you create a file that's ended in .http, there's various different formats that you can use. In this case, it's just a curl posting to this endpoint because that's where it's running on 8000 locally. And this is the input that I'm sending it. It creates this little button up here. And so if I click on send request, it actually makes the post call. I got a 200 OK back. Here's the response that we saw. Here is the echo. And that's what this agent does, is returns echo and then whatever this input was, and that's what we get, the response coming back. So we know the endpoint's up and running and working. So that's the easy part. It's running local on our machines, but in order to register it in Foundry, it needs to be public. And so you can use something like ngrok. In this case, I'm using DevTunnel, and I'll go ahead and show you these, but I'll go ahead and destroy this tunnel and the registration in Foundry after I'm done. But so here in DevTunnel, I've run that, and that's given me this endpoint that I can connect to. And so if I go into DevTunnel here, let's go ahead and close this, into DevTunnel. So this is now this same code that's proxied, kind of are tunneled from the internet into my local box. And we should see this DevTunnel here. And if I click on that, sure enough, it's doing a 200 OK. And I come down here and I see, sure enough, this call came from the DevTunnel. All right, so now this service is publicly available on the internet. And that's what we need in order to register it. So if I were to take this endpoint here without v1 on it, I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And let's go back to Foundry. And inside of Foundry, I'm going to go ahead and register an agent. And this is telling us to make sure that you enable AI Gateway. And so that gives you an ability to do that. And first thing it asks for is this agent URL. So this is the publicly facing URL to get to this agent. I have two options, HTTP, including REST, or A to A. So I'm doing REST here in this case. I'm just going to create some agent ID. Let's call it mock3. And we'll skip this admin portal URL. So we're going to choose a project. Here's the various projects that I have. This one is only one that's enabled because it's the only one that has an AI gateway enabled for it. That's why we can access that one. Agent name, I'm just going to call this mock3, and then we'll call the description mock3. So that's all we have to do to register this, and when we do, then it's going to take just a bit, but it's going to register. Mock3 is now available here. So if I click on just this little dot here, it's going to give me some details. The agent ID is mock3, and this is the proxied endpoint. So once again, the one from DevTunnel is this one in our example, and then this proxied one is this one. So we're going to give out this proxied APIM endpoint, and that's anybody that's going to use that agent is going to use that, and that's going to allow this this middle ground here. So we can also, if we click on the link here, then you can get into tracing and whatnot. So let's, what is this doing? Interesting. All right, well, we'll see. So, all right, so I copied that APIM endpoint, and if I go back here and go to AI Gateway and use that endpoint, so here's that Mach 3 was the name, and this is the AI Gateway that I created called First AI Gateway. And now if I call this one, it's going to call with this input of AI Gateway. So let's go ahead and save that, send this, and sure enough, we got a 200 OK, and it's showing that it is calling it from the AI Gateway. So we've just tested that it's, that we could either get it connected locally, publicly on the internet, or through this proxied endpoint. So great. Let's see what else we can do. So I'm not sure if it's going to register a trace this soon. It's not saying that there's any run, so I'm not sure exactly how long it takes. Here's a Mach 2 run that I did, and if you go into it, and you could see now on the traces tab and the date, how long it took. And so this is one of the advantages of registering an agent or having all your agents in Foundry, is that you get to access these traces. So this is just talking about the endpoint that it hits. This is the real endpoint, and just the information. This is just registering the post. Now you can go into your agent itself, and since it's using open telemetry, you can have out different basically log statements, or capture all the different outputs, and then those would be logged as well. So that is the basics of it, but let's kind of get into what I thought would happen and what surprised me. So first of all, when I registered an agent, I thought that there were only certain protocols like responses to API or whatnot that was supported. And it's not. It's just HTTP traffic that's being proxied through something. So that's the first thing that I learned, that it does have ability for different, different telemetry or different monitoring of things, and which is good and interesting. There's also, let's see, let me think about where this is. I thought that by registering an agent and having it show up in here, that when I came over here to build things like a workflow, that I could come in and let's add a new invoke agent. And here's my drop-down list to select an agent. I thought those externally registered agents would show up in this list, but they don't. I'm not sure if that's a preview thing or if it's just not something that they support. So I could see an agent that I created inside of Foundry itself over here in this agents tab, but any of those external agents I did not find. So that's something that surprised me. They don't show up in this list either. So that's something else that I discovered. And back here to assets. Oh, I think it's this way. So if I come into here, that's what I'm looking for. You can unregister an agent and you can update its status. So let's say this agent is giving you problems and it's externally hosted and you can't do anything about that agent, but you need to turn it off here inside of Foundry. You can block traffic to the agent. So that's something that you can do. One of the things that you gain, and you can have access to active alerts, activities, and different things inside of here. So that's part of the monitoring and telemetry and the different fun things that you get access to. In this overview tab, you can also see various different agents, like what the cost is. But here's the mock agent 3 that we had called. And so it's showing up here as different agents, so you can have these different access to these different graphs and things and take a look at those. Let's see if our trace is, yep, so this is our mock 3 agent, so our trace is available now, and we can take a look at that and see the post statement and that it took 0.8 seconds to access that. So that is really the gist of what I wanted to show you. Wanted to, first of all, let you know about the availability of these agents, being able to register your own agents, what that means, what it doesn't mean. So just kind of separate the expectation from the reality on that. But if you've got any questions or are doing some more exploring on your own on how these custom agents registered in Foundry work, I would love to get some feedback. So look forward to your comments. Thank you very much.